I've been in software more than 20 years, and during most of that time, there was kind of an agreement among all of us that what we were doing was mostly outside of what the politicians were doing, and what they were doing was mostly boring. Obviously, we're right in the middle of politics now. And when I say we, I mean the tech billionaires, and I do not count myself. Obviously, I'm not one of them, but I do not count myself as one of the people that just agrees with them. I think they're wrong in most of their takes. I was really not happy to see Tim Cook, Andy Jassy, CEO of Amazon, and Lisa Su, CEO of AMD, with the president watching Melania's stupid ass fucking biopic on the same night as a nurse in Minneapolis was executed by terrorist ICE officials. That's right, they're the terrorists. They're the ones with the political motivation to scare citizens into behaving. So anyway, I was like, let me tell you this story. This is written down, so I'm going to read this, which might not seem the most natural presentation, but I'm going to do it because this is about my watchmaking thing. So I've been learning watchmaking for the past few months. It started as a counterbalance to my work in AI and automation, something slow and physical and human. Lately, I've been reading about what these Swiss watch companies did during World War II, and the history is instructive. Here's the story they tell about Rolex. During the war, British RAF pilots were buying Rolex watches with their own money because the military issue ones were garbage. When these pilots got shot down and captured, the Germans confiscated their watches. Han Wilsdorf, who founded Rolex, heard about this, and he made an offer. Any British prisoner of war could write to him personally, request a replacement watch because it had been stolen, and not pay a single franc until after the war was over. Think about what that meant. Switzerland was completely surrounded by Nazi-controlled territory. Nobody knew who was going to win, and Whistledorf was essentially saying he was betting publicly on the Allies. He sent over 3,000 watches to POW camps. He wrote personal letters saying, "You must not even think of settling during the war." One of these watches ended up on the wrist of Corporal Clive Nutting at Stalag Luft 3, the camp where it was the camp from the Great Escape. The prisoners used chronograph function to time German guard patrols. Very cool. The watch helped plan one of the most famous prison breaks in all of history. So that's the inspiring version, but it's not so simple. At the same time, Whistledorf was sending watches to British POWs. His company was also supplying movements to Panerai, movements that ended up in watches worn by Nazi frogmen. When confronted, the company claimed, the order slipped through, while Wilsdorf was grieving his dying wife. But the records show that he found out in time to stop it, and he didn't. And Rolex was one of the better examples. Like, that's actually pretty good. IWC, which now sells a whole line of Spitfire pilot watches, trading on British aviation heritage, was simultaneously supplying the Luftwaffe. Same watches, different customers. Longines, Omega, Zenith, they all took orders from both sides. German payments often came in gold confiscated from Jewish families, and a lot of that gold is still in Swiss bank vaults. The official position was neutrality. The practical reality was profit from everyone. Figure out the story later. And the thing is, one of the things that's so cool about these companies is that they have such a long history, and they all survived. They're still here. They're still prestigious. IWC still sells Spitfire watches. Panerai re-released the Nazi-era designs, and they just cleaned up the marketing. You can survive by playing both sides. But your legacy has asterisks, and the history is always there, and just waiting for somebody to look it up like I just did. So I guess one of the leaders of my industry, tech, when they do stuff like show up to dinners during a period of obviously immoral action by the administration, obviously authoritarian, not okay action by the Department of Homeland Security and ICE, I judge them. And no matter how good their marketing content is, 3 years from now, when maybe we have somebody else in office, I'll remember. And this will get written down. So what am I going to do right now? Well, 45% of consumer spending happens from just 10% of households. I'm lucky enough that we have one of those households. I'm absolutely not buying anything from Apple or Amazon until they do something, at least for the next several weeks. I want them to feel pain. I actually have to, in my business, buy some of their things. I could just quit my business, but I'm not so wealthy that I could survive that way. I would have to get a job probably supporting them in some other way. There's really no way around these companies long term. This is where I sit. I'm doing my best to tell you what I think about these leaders, to tell you that I think that there's a different way, that I don't want them owning all of the value created by AI. All of the rest of us tech leaders have a responsibility here. We are working for them. We need to make them change. They can survive playing both sides. They probably will. They'll probably come away stronger for it. But we can make it so that they don't.